Because 95% of these people are Pakistanis, and very often from a particular part of Pakistan.
That's absolutely not
true. So it is true. It is true. Emily. But anyway,
no.
let's
From 2023. No, I'm going to tell you this.
Let's park that.
224 white grooming gang suspects. Doesn't it show you should be ashamed that you are making money off a re-exploitation?
I'm not. I've given money.
I've
given money. I'm not making money. I've given money to it.
Wow. This was one of the most shocking interview techniques I've ever seen by the odious establishment reporter Emily Maitlis. The debate started civilised enough, apart from her condescending tone, but suddenly, after a change of topic, her mask slipped big time. She was like a frenzied attack dog, eager to be unleashed. She had been waiting all interview to just let rip. Unfortunately for her, she was let loose on someone a lot smarter and more composed than her. It's brilliant how he stayed so calm. It was brilliant to hear him say, "It's okay for you to virtual signal about illegal immigrants when none are living in your nice leafy suburb." She didn't deny it. She then turns especially nasty on him when they get onto the subject of grooming gangs, and it shows what a vile, hideous woman she is. She has the cheek to say he should be ashamed of himself politicising child exploitation. It's people who think like her who sacrificed those girls on the altar of diversity. No one is denying white grooming gangs, but they don't operate in plain sight. And the police have a difficult job trying to track them down because it's all done on the dark web. In contrast, the Pakistani gangs were operating in plain sight. Everyone knew what was going on, and it was systematically covered up by everyone from politicians to the police, council officials, and even social workers. Covered up to protect the religion of diversity, a religion she follows. In some instances, the victims and their family members were threatened or even arrested for speaking up about it. Race and gender are supposed to be protected characteristics under UK law, and yet these girls were targeted obviously because they were female, but also because they were white. Yet the law forgot to mention to them it doesn't apply to white girls. Racism against them is perfectly acceptable. She sinks even lower into the sewer in this interview when she accuses Rupert Lowe of profiting from grooming gangs. All he said was he set up a fund to get justice for the girls and is paying his own money into it. By this point, however, it doesn't matter what he says. She just sees him as the devil and is hell-bent on attacking him. In the end, all she did was expose herself for the angry ideologue she is. Take a watch.
She's working on her opinion.
But why is it funny?
But it's not funny. I mean, my driver for the rape gang inquiry is that having looked into it, and it's something which I think a lot of people in this country probably were blissfully unaware of.
No, I don't think they were.
So,
Andrew Norfolk,
that's
who's the Times reporter.
That's your opinion. But I have picked up the mantle, and as you know, I don't call them grooming gangs. I call it Pakistani rape gangs, because 95% of these people are Pakistanis, and very often from a particular part of Pakistan.
That's absolutely not
true. So it is true. It is true. Emily. But anyway, let's
from 2023. No, I'm going to tell you this.
Let's park that.
224 white grooming gang suspects were found compared to 22 Pakistani suspects. Why do you only talk about the Pakistani grooming gangs? That's police statistics from the Times.
I've now got on my
police statistics from the Times.
If you look at my rape gang inquiry, which you asked me about.
No, I didn't. I asked you why you're insisting on politicising child exploitation.
20,000 people have donated about £620,000 now. That shows you the depth of feeling and concern amongst British people.
Doesn't it show you should be ashamed that you are making money off a re-exploitation
I'm not. I've given
of
money.
This
I've given
position?
money. I'm not making money. I've given money to it. I will make absolutely less than zero. I've given a substantial sum to it, as have other people who care.
Why are you doing this? Why are you just trying to talk about Pakistani grooming gangs when there are 4 times, 8 times and 10 times as many white grooming gang suspects?
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming.
Are you telling
when it hits any community and any age? We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
I am concentrating on it because it's a blot on our national history.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history?
It has not been properly dealt with.
Isn't any grooming a blot on our history? Why don't you talk about anyone else?
My grooming gang inquiry, I have a victim who's working with us. I have a number of people who've been directly involved. And it's underway. And if you're suggesting I'm going to make any money out of it, that is completely wrong. I've given money to it, and I intend, because I believe there should be a statutory inquiry, because that's far more powerful. The government should have a statutory inquiry. And I'm going to do everything I can to ensure I shame the government into having one.
You will know Andrew Norfolk, who's the Times reporter, who started the reporting on this in 2011.
Andrew Norfolk's done some good work.
He said the way this issue has been raised by people like Musk, like you, is exploiting these girls, making the victims all over again.
He has said some very good things, but yes. I am not satisfied that the British establishment has dealt with this for a number of reasons. And in my view, it's linked to county lines drugs. There's a whole raft of things that have not been properly dealt with. A bit like the lawfare against me, we have subjective policing. And as you know, the British establishment, Emily, and you're obviously clearly one of them because you obviously believe this is okay, has propagated an attempt at a multicultural society which has not worked. And what they're fearful of is admitting, firstly, that hasn't worked. They're equally, I think, fearful of the fact that the Muslim bloc vote, which in my view, I will ban, if we ever get near power, I will ban postal voting. Hang on, now I've got to finish this. You keep trying to flip over it, and I'm not going to have you, you're not going to do it.
No, I'm going to put some of your words back to you. No, I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer your question because this is a huge issue. It happened largely in labour wards. I think the police are very often to blame because I think they haven't dealt with it properly. I think some of the social services are to blame. They haven't dealt with it properly. Emily, this goes to the root of what... Okay, let's understand.
I am perfectly entitled to have a crowdfunder, as an MP, to out something that I think needs outing.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying there aren't other things that need outing as well, but I think this is a particularly vile blot on Britain's history.
Yes.
You can throw as much liberal cant as you want at me, but I am not going to back down, and it's perfectly within my right. And if you can't see the fact that 20,000 people have put their trust in me, I feel incredibly humbled by that. They have contributed because they know there's an issue here that the state has not dealt with.
The Liberal cant is asking whether all grooming is bad in this country, all exploitation of young girls is bad, or just one particular type done by one particular...
All grooming is bad.
Because I didn't hear you say that.
All grooming is bad.
Okay.
And all rape is bad. And all treatment of underage children is bad.
You've advocated the deportation of all illegal immigrants, and you've said we need to start rapidly...
Hang on, repeat that. What did I say?
You've advocated the deportation, I believe, of all illegal
I'll tell you my
migrants.
position on this.
No, I want to just get this quote out. We need to start rapidly emptying the tub. Do you believe there are too many Muslims in this country? Is that where you stand?
I believe there are too many illegal migrants in this country.
Do you believe there are too many Muslims in this country?
So I have said, and I'm on record, and I'll say it to you clearly, I would detain and deport all people arriving here illegally. The basis of a sovereign nation is to defend...
That's not the question I asked. Do you believe there are too many Muslims? You can say yes or no. Just say yes or no.
I am intent on detaining and deporting all illegal migrants. I am intent on deporting all people living here illegally. I am intent on detaining all criminals, foreign criminals, in our prisons straight away.
Yeah.
I am also intent on deporting those people who knew that rape was happening within their family and didn't report it.
You've talked about how you'd like to see illegal migrants put on an island off Scotland with minimal food, your words, and let the midges do the rest.
That's what I said.
So do you advocate pain and suffering for anyone who washes up here?
I advocate detaining and deporting. But if because of the Human Rights Act, which as you know beds the ECHR
let the midges do the
within
rest.
It, hang on, embeds the ECHR within it. If our
if our arguably deficient legal system doesn't allow us to act as a proper sovereign nation... No, hang on, let me answer.
I'm quoting your words. Put them on an island
like
off Scotland with minimal food and let the midges do the rest.
Before you jump in like Rumpelstiltskin, let me answer. So, if our legal system doesn't allow us as a sovereign nation to deport, which personally I would repeal a number of acts, including the Human Rights Act, and I would deport them straight away because they've travelled across safe countries, which they shouldn't do. They shouldn't do.
Starve to death.
Under international law, they should not be travelling across safe countries to get here.
Yeah.
France should not be being paid $500 million a year and then shipping
this
over
as migrants
here.
Should be left with minimal food and let the midges do the rest. So
therefore, hang on, I'll answer your question. I said what I said because I mean it. And at the end of the day, if you don't think the British people agree with me, then you're wrong, because they do. They've had enough of it. You don't have illegal migrants living next to you, Emily, because you live in a part of the country that probably doesn't have them.
And if you did, you would want them to starve to death.
So you are part of this liberal elite who basically says, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so I'm sorry, what I meant was, and I mean it, is if our legal system doesn't allow us to detain and deport, we should set up a tented camp on an island. We should not treat them unfairly, but we should equally not put them at the top of waiting lists for dental treatment, for medical treatment. We should not give them spending money. We should not effectively treat them as if they have been taxpayers for years. They haven't been. They are illegal migrants. And by the way, they're not asylum seekers. They're economic migrants, most of them. So I mean, I know the virtue signalling do-gooders want to sort of feel good about themselves, but if you really want to, go and live next to these people. Go and spend your life and you have them ogling at your children in school and things. No, that's wrong. And what's happened is our state no longer puts the honest, decent, tax-paying British citizen at the top of the agenda. They have been relegated to a second-class citizen, and we are bringing people in here who've contributed nothing, who have come in here illegally, and most of them have been allowed to stay for the simple reason that we are signed up to all these nonsensical international treaties that are meaningless. And and why do you think people voted to leave the European Union, Emily? Why do you think they did? Because they want their country back. They want their borders back. They want sanity back. So I'm sorry, yes, if they want to come here, and if you can't deport them, put them on an island until they ask to go home.
And let the midges.
And who else does that? Australia do that, don't they?
Rupert,
have you heard of Nauru Island in Australia? Does Australia now have a problem with illegal immigration? No. It used to, doesn't now. So I'm afraid sometimes you have to be hard to be kind. And these people will learn very quickly, don't come to the UK. It is not just going to hand out a load of candy to you and let you take priority over the people who've lived here all their lives. British people don't want that. And do you think we've had too much illegal and legal migration? You probably don't.
And let the midges
do you think we've had too much legal and illegal immigration in the recent past?
This is not about me.
You're not answering the question. You expect me to answer the question. You're not answering them.
Well, one day I'll come on your show, Rupert, and we can do a good interview then.
You can come on my podcast.
That would be lovely. Rupert Lowe, thank you very much.
Pleasure.